I saw it happen before I even knew what I was seeing. It was a Thursday. I remember because the UPS guy delivered 3 packages and she only brought in 2. The third was left sitting on the porch until I got home at 6:23 p.m. She said she hadn't seen it. Funny, since it was leaning against the front door. She was in the kitchen, cutting strawberries. Her phone on the counter, face down. Normally she kept it in her purse, zipped up like some sacred relic. I should have noticed that. The change. The casual way it was there. Like bait. She offered me one of the strawberries, dipped in sugar like always, but something in her eyes didn't match the sweet. I chewed it slowly, letting the juice coat my tongue, and watched her. Watched how she didn't ask me about my day. How she turned her back as soon as I answered her nothing question with a nothing reply. She was humming. Not a song she usually hummed. Some pop track with a filthy hook. A song I never heard her play in the car or at home. But she knew the words. Every damn word. And when she turned around, her lips were still moving. Just enough for me to read them. I like it when you... She stopped. I stared at her. She tilted her head and gave me this amused little look, like I was the one acting strange. I asked her what she'd been up to. She said, "Same old stuff." That exact phrase. No details. No smile. No warmth. Just a mechanical. So I waited until she went upstairs to shower. Then I picked up her phone. Not to snoop. Not yet. Just to move it. But the screen came on when I touched it. She'd forgotten to turn off notifications. I wish I could say it was a message that gave it away. Something obvious. "I can't wait to see you again tonight," or "a last night was wild." But it was worse than that. It was a photo. Popped up, briefly, in the banner before disappearing. But I saw enough. A blurry picture of her feet. Bare. Resting on a hotel bed I didn't recognize. The caption? "You left these here, winky face, no name. Just a phone number." My heart didn't drop. Clenched. Like it knew what my brain didn't want to admit. I tapped the number. It was saved under Deborah. Spelled wrong. Debreo. No last name. No photo. And when I opened the message thread, I saw that they had just cleared their history. Except for one message, hanging there like a cruel mistake. "Same time tomorrow? I'll bring the wine." I locked the screen and placed the phone exactly where it had been. Angle, position, screen down. I stood there in the kitchen, listening to the water running upstairs, and I realized this wasn't just an affair. This was a performance. A rehearsed, tightly managed charade. She'd been cleaning up after herself like a pro. But she slipped, and that slip was mine. I didn't go upstairs. Didn't ask questions. I drove to a 24-hour diner and sat in the back booth for 2 hours, staring at the wood grain of the table and playing the whole thing over in my head like a film reel stuck on repeat. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't feel anything at all. Just this strange, growing curiosity. How far has this gone? How deep does it run? I went home after midnight. She was in bed, pretending to sleep. I lay next to her, eyes open, heart still. I didn't touch her. Didn't say a word. But I started planning. Because whatever this was, I wasn't going to walk away quietly. And neither was he. The next morning, I played it perfect. I brewed the coffee just the way she likes it, 2 sugars, oat milk, exactly 190 degrees. Placed her cup next to her laptop. Kissed her on the forehead. She smiled, murmured thanks, and that was it. No eye contact. No lingering. She was distracted. Probably already thinking about him. I'd spent the entire night crafting my silence into strategy. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want to confront her in some movie scene breakdown. I wanted to see everything. I wanted to understand what kind of man you have to be to make my wife hum songs I've never heard and smile like she's hiding candy in her cheek. So I started with the number. I plugged it into a reverse search while she showered. Took 5 minutes. Cost me $10. And there it was, Daniel Pierce. 37, single. Works in real estate. One of those local hotshot types who thinks owning a condo and a boat makes him the main character. I recognized the name. 2 months ago, she mentioned him over dinner once. Said he was a client who flirted a little too hard during a showing. Said it like it was an inconvenience. like he annoyed her. She even rolled her eyes and said, "The ones with money always think they're owed something." And now she's sending him pictures of her feet in a hotel bed. I didn't need proof beyond that, but I wanted it. So I called in a favor. My cousin Brandon runs a low-key IT business. He owes me for bailing him out last summer when he nearly got arrested over a drone incident. I sent him the phone number and told him to dig. He didn't ask questions. Within an hour, I had Daniel's Instagram, his work profile, and most importantly, his calendar. Apparently, Daniel doesn't believe in digital privacy. His assistant manages everything through a shared calendar, public-facing. Real estate events, open houses, networking mixers, and a repeating appointment every Tuesday and Thursday blocked off as private client D. That was today. Thursday. She was still in the house when I pieced it together. Still upstairs. Still pretending she was something she wasn't. I felt my fingers curl on the edge of the table. Not out of rage. Not out of pain. I was buzzing. Like the fuse had been lit and the explosion wasn't coming yet, but I could already smell the smoke. I told her I had a work emergency. Left the house by 11. Drove across town. I didn't go to my shop. I parked 3 blocks from the Hyatt, checked the street, checked the time, 11:47 a.m., and waited. At 12:16, she walked out of our house. Not in office clothes. Not in errands clothes. She wore the black sweater dress she told me made her feel dangerous. Paired it with the boots she said were just a little too much for everyday wear. Hair curled. Makeup flawless. No ring. She didn't drive to the store. She drove straight to the Hyatt. Parked underground. Walked in like she owned the place. I stayed low in the truck, heart hammering, blood cold. I counted the minutes. 25. 40. An hour. I didn't go in. Not yet. I waited until my phone pinged. Brandon had cracked her location sharing. She forgot she ever turned it on for road trips. It was still active. I tapped the screen. Watched the blue dot hover on the 4th floor of the hotel. Room 417. She was there. With him. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure what I was capable of. But I knew this. She set my world on fire with her betrayal. So I made sure he felt every degree of it. I didn't storm the hotel. I didn't make a scene in the lobby. That would have given them what they expected: drama, an outburst, a reason to twist the narrative. I'm not a character in their story. I'm the one writing the ending now. So I waited. Sat in the truck, still as stone, watching the digital heartbeat of her location on my phone, hovering right there in room 417 like a ghost that forgot who she used to be. I don't know what I expected to feel: a rage? Panic? But all I felt was focus. Like something had cracked open inside me and spilled all the pieces into the right places. At exactly 2:09 p.m., the dot moved. I saw her before she saw me, walking out of the hotel's side entrance like she was leaving a spa. Hair slightly tousled. That smug, relaxed look on her face. She was texting. Smiling. Probably thanking him for the wine. For whatever cheap lines he fed her to make her feel like something expensive. She reached her car, opened the door, and paused. She looked up. She saw me across the street, leaned against my truck, arms crossed, phone in hand. For one perfect second, her whole face dropped. Then, like the pro she is, she snapped right back into performance mode. Flashed a quick smile. Started walking toward me like this was just some coincidence. "Hey babe," she said, voice sugar sweet, "what are you doing here?" I didn't answer. I held up the phone, showing her the live location. Still pulsing over the hotel room. Her smile faltered. "Are you following me?" Still no answer. She stopped walking. "Josh, what the hell is this?" I finally spoke. "You forgot to turn off your location sharing." Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. She laughed short, fake, panicked. "So you're spying on me now? Are you serious?" I looked at her for a long, slow moment. Then I said, "Room 417? She flinched. Just a blink. But I saw it. And that was all I needed. "I don't know what you think you saw," she started. "Don't lie to me," I said, sharp enough to slice the rest of her sentence in half. She folded her arms. Tried to regain ground. "Okay. Fine. I had a meeting. With a client. At the hotel." "Daniel Pierce?" "Nothing." I stepped closer. "The same guy you said was annoying? Thinks he's owed something? That guy." Her silence was louder than any confession. "Jesus, Amanda," I stopped myself. Bit down the frustration, the betrayal, the months of wondering why her touch had cooled, why her laugh had felt distant. She tilted her head. You're blowing this out of proportion. Did you sleep with him? I don't owe you that answer, she snapped. And there it was. The shift. The moment she dropped the act entirely and looked at me not like a husband, not like someone who'd bled time and trust for her, but like an obstacle. She wasn't ashamed. She was inconvenienced. And I laughed. I actually laughed. Because I finally saw her. Not the version I'd built in my head. Not the woman I married, but the real one. The one who could stand outside a hotel she just left another man's bed in, look her husband in the eye, and say, "You're being dramatic." So I walked, turned and walked back to the truck. Left her standing there, fuming and flustered in her little black dress and boots she wore for someone else. I didn't look back. But I knew right then this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. And when I was done, neither of them would forget what it cost to play with fire. I didn't go home that night. I didn't even call. I wanted her to feel the quiet, the stillness of a man who's no longer circling her chaos like a lost satellite. I wanted the silence to wrap around her like a noose, because silence from a man who always forgave. That's the sound of something ending. I stayed at a buddy's place, Nate. He offered me a beer before I even stepped through the door. He didn't ask questions. Just said, "You look like someone carved your soul out with a spoon," and tossed me a blanket and a spot on the couch. That's the thing about real friends, they don't poke the wound. They just sit with you while it bleeds. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. 6 missed calls. All from her. Then a text, "We need to talk. Please." I stared at it for 10 minutes, then put the phone face down. She was probably pacing the living room by now, rehearsing a dozen lies, shaping her story into a version where she's the misunderstood one. I wasn't ready to hear her rewrite reality. But I was ready for the next move. The next morning, I made a stop. Daniel Pierce's office was inside a slick modern building with too much glass and not enough soul. I didn't go in. I waited in the parking lot across the street, just like the day before. At exactly 10:32 a.m. he strolled out, tan coat, coffee in hand, whistling some mindless tune like he hadn't just detonated someone's marriage. He looked average. And somehow that made it worse. I followed him. Not close. Just enough. Watched him pull into another property. Watched him greet a couple, young, probably newly engaged, with that salesman smile I bet he used on her, too. That "trust me, I know what you want" grin. I sat there, watching him charm his way into more lives. And I made my decision. It wasn't about revenge. It was about exposure. You see, Daniel has a reputation. Not just in business. I dug deeper. Reviews. Comments. Whispers on local forums. Turns out, he has a pattern. Oversteps boundaries with female clients. Inappropriate during showings. Too personal. Too fast. He'd never been caught, just warned. Protected by charm and paper-thin professionalism. Until now, I started documenting every connection, every lie she told, every timestamp. I wasn't collecting scraps, I was building a case. And then I called her. She picked up instantly. Voice trembling like she'd been holding her breath since the day before. "Where are you?" she asked. "Working. We need to talk, Josh." I messed up. But it's not what you think. It didn't mean anything. I wasn't trying to hurt you. You're sleeping with him. Silence. Then, okay. Yes. But it's not like that. It started as a stupid mistake and then you planned it. You made space for it. You chose him. I was lonely, Josh. You stopped seeing me. You buried yourself in that garage. You haven't touched me and there it was. The pivot. The classic. It's your fault I betrayed you. I didn't flinch. "Do you love him?" I asked. Her breath hitched. "No. God, no. It wasn't about that. He just made me feel something. I don't know. Alive." "Alive," I repeated. "So the rest of us were dead then." She went quiet. "I'll be home tonight," I said. "We're going to have a real conversation. No lies. No spin. Just the truth. All of it." She agreed. But I wasn't coming to talk. I was coming to show her what happens when you treat loyalty like a disposable thing. I pulled into the driveway just after 7 p.m. The house looked the same as always, calm, quiet, perfect on the outside. But I knew better now. It wasn't home anymore, just a shell. Pretty lie with good lighting. She was waiting inside. Not in pajamas. Not in tears. She was dressed like she was going out. Black jeans, a silk blouse I hadn't seen before. Makeup subtle but precise. She'd staged herself. She wasn't mourning the damage. She was preparing to manage it. I didn't sit. I didn't offer pleasantries. I shut the door behind me, slow and steady, like the beginning of a final chapter. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. Before you start, don't lie. I know about Daniel. I know about the hotel. I know about the messages. This is your moment to speak truth or walk out. She took a breath, and for a second, I thought she might finally collapse under the weight of her own deception. I didn't plan for this to happen, she said, eyes glassy but dry. I didn't go looking for him. It started small. I met him at a networking event and he just noticed me. That word again. Noticed. I stepped closer. You mean he looked at you like I used to before you started treating me like furniture? She winced. You weren't there anymore, Josh. You were always working. You stopped trying. I laughed sharp and low. So you slipped out of our marriage like a coat that got too warm and now it's my fault the wind found you? She snapped. Don't twist this like you're the victim of some grand conspiracy. You checked out. You gave me nothing for months. And instead of saying that, you let another man give you everything? I asked. Her voice cracked then. Not from sorrow, but frustration. I made a mistake, okay? A huge one. But it's not like I was out there doing it for fun. It was one person. It wasn't random. Oh, that makes it better. I didn't fall in love with him. I stared at her. You just gave him the parts of you that were supposed to be mine. She looked away, biting her lip, like maybe she thought that would soften this moment. But I wasn't done. I pulled out the folder. She frowned. What's that? Every message, every call log, screenshots, the hotel receipt he left in your glove box. I've got it all. Her face drained of color. Why? She asked. Why collect all that? Because Daniel's made a habit of this. You weren't his first private client. And I'm not the first husband to find out late. You don't get to ruin his life just because ours is falling apart. I leaned in. He helped destroy this. He doesn't get to walk away clean. You're becoming someone I don't even recognize. I smiled cold. That's funny. I finally see you clearly. She stepped back. Defensive now. Less composed. So what, you're going to blackmail him? Drag me through public mud? Tell the whole world. No, I said. I'm giving him a choice. He ends it. Walks away from you. From all of this. Quietly. Or I go public with everything, including his history. I already reached out to a woman named Rachel. Ring a bell? Her face twisted. Recognition. Guilt? Fear. You're not doing this to protect me, she whispered. No, I said. I'm doing this to end it. She stared at me like she didn't know who I was anymore. And maybe she didn't. Because the man who once bent over backwards to keep this marriage alive was gone. And in his place stood someone who'd been burned down to the bones, someone who learned that when you play with fire, you don't always get to choose what survives the flames. 2 days passed before Daniel responded. I hadn't reached out to him directly yet. I let the message arrive like smoke slipping under a door. A quiet pressure. A hint of the storm that was building. I had someone deliver a sealed envelope to his office, nothing dramatic, just a courier with a suit and a clipboard. Inside, a printed photo of him and her entering the Hyatt. A timestamp. A screenshot of one of their texts. No threats. No words. Just facts. He called that evening. Blocked number. I let it ring once. Twice. Picked up on the third. Who is this? He asked. His voice wasn't cocky anymore. It was thin. Controlled. Like a man trying not to slip on ice. You know who this is. Silence. Then, what do you want? I want you out of her life. Another pause. Then he laughed. Dry. Defensive. She's a grown woman. I don't control what you misunderstood me, I said calmly. I'm not asking. I'm giving you a very narrow exit. You take it or I make this a mess. Are you threatening me? No. I'm promising clarity. I've got files. Names. Patterns. You're not just a mistake, Daniel. You're a habit. And I'm done letting people like you ruin things from the shadows. He hesitated. She told me you were crazy. I smiled at that. Then she lied to you the way she lied to me. What else is new? He went quiet again. Walk away, I said. Delete her number. If you ever contact her again, ever, I burn it all down. Public, private, doesn't matter. He hung up. That night she came to me. Quiet, controlled, like she was trying to tiptoe through broken glass. I haven't heard from him, she said. He blocked me. I said nothing. She stood in the doorway of our bedroom, hands in her sleeves, pretending to shiver. Did you do something? Would it matter if I did? Her eyes met mine, but there was no fight in them anymore. No fire. Just this dull, flickering fear. You're different now. Because now I know the truth. I made a mistake, Josh. Stop calling it that. It wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. Over and over. You don't get to fall back on that word like it's a soft place to land. Her lips trembled, but no tears came. She was trying to cry. Trying to soften me. I walked past her, grabbed my duffel from the closet, and started packing. She blocked the door. Wait, what are you doing? Leaving. For how long? I looked at her. Really looked. You stopped being my wife the second you chose him. I've just been catching up. She reached for my arm. I pulled away. Don't do this, she said. We can fix it. You don't even know what it is anymore. I walked out, got in the truck, pulled out of the driveway without looking back. Not once. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't scream or fight or beg. Sometimes it's simply, go. I stayed with Nate again that night. He didn't say anything when I walked in, just slid a cold drink across the table and sat down across from me. You done? He asked after a while. I shook my head. Not yet. He nodded like he expected that answer. The thing is, leaving the house didn't untangle the web. It just confirmed how deep I was in it. You don't walk away from something like this and suddenly feel free. You walk away and carry the echoes, the questions that replay in the quiet. What did he have that I didn't? When did she stop choosing me? And the ugliest one. Was I ever enough? Or was I just convenient until better came along? The next morning I got a message. Not from her. Not from Daniel. From Rachel. The woman I mentioned to Amanda in passing. One of Daniel's private clients. Turns out, she hadn't heard from him in months. But she remembered him all too well. She remembered the subtle pressure. The way he kept showing up after business was over. How it always started with compliments and accidental touches. And how, when she pulled away, he ghosted. I asked her one question. Would you be willing to talk about it? She didn't hesitate. By the end of the day, I had 3 more women. Different faces. Same script. He used the same moves every time. Flattery, proximity, secrecy. The same type of women, too. Married, settled, bored, and probably looking for something to feel again. I wasn't angry at them. I understood the loneliness. I'd felt it too. Watching someone you love go distant, and not knowing why. But Daniel didn't just stumble into these situations. He targeted them. I met with one of the women in person. A bar, Midtown. She brought printouts. Emails she'd saved, just in case. One even had him promising to keep it discreet. That phrase alone made my skin crawl. And now that I had everything, I made my move. I didn't leak it. I didn't blast it online. That wasn't the point. I sent the packet to Daniel's office. Addressed it to his brokerage firm's managing partner, with a neat little note. I thought you should know the kind of man representing your brand. No signature. No return address. Just the truth. The fallout came fast. By the next day, Daniel's calendar was wiped clean. His social media disappeared. The brokerage issued a short, cold statement. We take allegations of misconduct seriously. Mr. Pierce is no longer affiliated with our company. It wasn't revenge. It was correction. And the thing about fire? When you've been burned long enough, you learn how to carry the flame. That night, Amanda called. Again. I answered. She didn't ask about us. She didn't apologize again. She just said, what did you do? I told the truth, I said. He lost everything. No, I said. He lost me the second he touched what was mine. She went quiet. Then, so what now? I let that question sit in the silence. What now? Now I live with the knowledge that the woman I built a future around turned it into a shortcut for another man's appetite. Now I rebuild from ash. But not for her. Not to get back what was lost. For me, she showed up at my work 2 days later. No warning. No text. Just walked straight into the garage like it was still hers to walk through. Like she hadn't detonated every inch of trust between us. I was under the hood of an old Chevelle trying to focus on the only kind of engine that still made sense to me. When I looked up and saw her standing there in that doorway, arms crossed like she was auditioning for regret, I almost laughed. "You don't belong here," I said. She stepped inside anyway. "We need to talk." I wiped my hands off with a rag and leaned against the frame of the car. "Then talk. I didn't come to fight." "Good. You'd lose." She exhaled sharply like she expected me to be softer. Like the version of me she betrayed would just appear if she looked sad enough. "I heard what happened to Daniel," she said. "He's blaming you." "Of course he is. Men like him never take the hit clean." Her eyes flared a little. "You went too far, Josh. You didn't just destroy his career, you humiliated him." "Did I?" I said. "Or did I just hold up a mirror?" She walked slowly toward me like maybe proximity would mend the broken parts. "You used to care what happened to people. You used to be good." I nodded. "And you used to be mine." That stopped her cold. "I didn't come here to beg," she said, quieter now. "No, you came here because for the first time you can't control the story. Daniel's gone. The fantasy collapsed. And all that's left is you, standing in the rubble." Her voice cracked. "I made a mistake. You keep saying that word like it means something." She swallowed hard. "I thought he saw me. I thought I was chasing something real. But he wasn't who I thought." "You didn't care who he was," I snapped. "You cared how he made you feel. And you let that be enough to betray every vow you ever spoke to me." She looked down, tears finally welling. I didn't move. She whispered, "I miss you." I nodded slowly, once. "I miss me too. Because the man I used to be..." He died quietly in the background while she let another man unwrap the pieces of our life like a gift he never earned. "Do you want a divorce?" she asked finally. I didn't answer right away. I looked at her. Not as my wife. Not even as a woman I once loved. Just as a person, one who had lit the match and then flinched at the fire. "I want the truth," I said. "From you. Once. All of it. No filters. No half versions." Her lips parted, but I stopped her. "Not now. Not here. You want to confess? You write it down. Every detail. Every moment. Start to finish. I want to see the version of you that I never got to meet while I was married to you." "And if I do?" she asked, voice shaking. "Then I'll know who I'm divorcing." She stood there for a long time, then nodded. "I'll write it." And she left. No dramatic goodbye. No final glance. Just silence. And for the first time, it didn't hurt. It just felt like a door closing that had stayed open far too long. The letter arrived 5 days later. No envelope. Just a thick stack of folded pages tucked inside a manila file left at Nate's front porch. No name, no note. I knew her handwriting instantly. Neat. Measured. Like she thought if the words looked clean, they might sting less. I didn't read it right away. I stared at it for a long while, thumb grazing the creases where she'd folded the pain she caused into something polite. There was something grotesquely ironic about it. Her betrayal now formatted like an essay. Like heartbreak could be made academic. That night, I sat at the kitchen table alone and unfolded the first page. And I read. She started soft, always did. Reminders of our early days. Nostalgia soaked in guilt. The beach trip where we slept in the back of my truck and she told me she'd never felt safer. The night she broke her heel dancing and I carried her 4 blocks home. Felt like bait. Then the tone shifted. She wrote about him. Not in full color, but enough. They'd met again 6 months ago at a mixer for real estate and design professionals. She didn't tell me she was going. Said it was a small group thing. Said it wasn't worth dragging me to. He recognized her. Bought her a drink. 1 led to 2. She said she felt seen. Said I'd stop laughing at her jokes. Stop looking up from my phone when she entered the room. Said Daniel made her feel like she was still interesting. And then came the timeline. Lunches that turned into long drives. Innocent hotel meetings that started before anything physical happened. The first time 3 months ago. Then again. Then it became regular. She admitted it. All of it. Even the things I hadn't uncovered. The nights she came home and curled up beside me with his cologne still clinging to her skin. The weekend she visited her sister and spent 2 nights at his lake house instead. She wrote that she didn't plan to leave me. That he was never the future, just the escape. That she thought I'd never find out. She ended with a line that etched itself into my bones. I set our world on fire, and I don't expect forgiveness. I only hope you survive the ashes better than I did. I sat there, eyes burning, chest hollowed out, every part of me vibrating with a clarity I hadn't known I needed. There it was. The truth. Ugly, naked, final. And somehow it didn't destroy me. It freed me. Not because she wrote it. Because now I knew that it was never about me lacking something. It was about her being too hollow to carry what we built. The next morning I filed the papers. No theatrics. No last confrontation. Just a signature. And the quiet satisfaction of reclaiming my own name. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. The woman behind the desk stamped the papers with the same disinterested thump she probably used for parking tickets. It was so casual, so clinical, like our 6-year marriage didn't even put a dent in her day. But for me, it was the sound of a life finally being released from the tight fist that had been clenching it. No dramatic courtroom. No shouting. She didn't even show up. Just a lawyer with tired eyes and a clipboard full of details she once said she'd never let come between us. Assets, cars, accounts. The ugly, practical aftermath of love gone toxic. I walked out into the sunlight not feeling lighter. Not yet, but clearer. Like a fog I'd lived in for too long had finally burned off. I went home. Not the house we shared, not the one she poisoned, but to the small place I'd moved into just outside of town. No memories there. No ghosts. Just 4 walls, a bed, and the sound of nothing when I wanted it. Nate came by that night with a 6-pack and a bag of burgers. He didn't ask questions. Just sat beside me on the porch as the sun went down, eating in silence. When the last bit of light dipped below the hills, he finally said, "You still love her?" I didn't answer right away. I thought about the woman I married. The way she used to fall asleep with her head on my chest. How she'd steal the last fry from my plate and laugh when I protested. I thought about the tiny glances, the shared jokes, the whispered promises under blankets and stars. And then I thought about the hotel. About Daniel. About the silence that grew between us, not because of distance, but because she was no longer choosing to close it. "No," I finally said. "I love who I thought she was." Nate nodded. That version didn't survive the fire. He was right. She set my world on fire with her betrayal. So I made sure he felt every degree of it. But I didn't walk away burned. I walked away tempered. Harder. Smarter. Wiser. And more than anything, done with carrying someone else's shame like it was my inheritance. She tried to reach out once more after the papers went through. One message. "If we just hit pause, do you think we could have saved it?" I stared at that line for a long time. And then I deleted it. Because the truth is, some things aren't meant to be saved. Some things are meant to collapse so you can finally see the space they were suffocating. So now I wake up alone but not empty. Now I rebuild slow, sure, honest. And if anyone ever asks what happened, I'll say this. She broke me, but I built back better. And I left the matchbook behind.